Greetings, Kaiju fans, and welcome to the very first countdown. In this debut episode, I'll be listing off my favorite monsters from the Godzilla franchise. Toho's monster menagerie is overwhelmingly large, and we all know the King of the Monsters would land number 1 on this list. So to whittle down our options, this list will exclude monsters that haven't appeared in a Godzilla film, as well as Godzilla himself. An obvious but necessary forewarning. This list is entirely my own opinion. If you disagree, hey, great! The best thing about opinions is that they let us see how other people feel about a topic. Seems easy enough, right? Alright, let's get started. Rodan. One of Toho's big 5, Rodan had to be the inaugural pick on the list. One of many prehistoric kaiju, Rodan is one of few Toho monsters to debut in his own solo film before being added to the Godzilla roster. The 1956 Rodan movie is a classic science fiction movie, most of which can be attributed to Eiji Tsuburaya's fantastic special effects work on the Rodan suits. If I had to pick a favorite Rodan design, it would be this design. It reminds me a lot of the 1954 Godzilla suit in some ways. It looks ancient and menacing. Rodan's one of Toho's big 5, like I said, a group of monsters consisting of Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, and Rodan. Those 5 are Toho's most famous monsters and the ones that have appeared in more Godzilla films than any other. Rodan's definitely a monster worthy of appearing on this list. Angurius. Godzilla's very first foe turned best friend. I don't think I need to explain myself for this one, everybody loves Angurius. First appearing in 1955's Godzilla Raids Again as the vicious enemy of Godzilla, he quickly turned face and stood alongside Godzilla and the other monsters of Earth against dreaded space monsters like Gigan, King Ghidorah, and of course, Mechagodzilla. Angurius may not be the most powerful monster, but he definitely makes up for it with his tenacity. Angurius will rush headfirst into battle with no regard for his own safety. It's not a very good strategy, and most of the time he suffers from it, but you gotta admire that courage. My favorite design for Angurius is actually the 1955 suit. I love how ferocious it looks, and it's a great first opponent for Godzilla. I've also started taking more of a liking to the Final War suit, too. I think it's a great update for the Ankylosaurus we know and love. Now, if only he could appear in the Monsterverse. Megalon. Megalon's film has gotten a very bad rep in the past, and I'm glad that most fans these days are warming up to it. It's a really fun entry in the series, and it features some great monster choreography by the suit actors, especially with Megalon here. A giant insect with drills on his hands is absolutely pure tokusatsu monster design, and I love it. His mannerisms with sparring partner Gigan are hilarious and bring a lot of character to the big bug. I'm glad to see Megalon get the spotlight in recent years, such as the Atari video games and the IDW comics. Megalon also features the unique distinction of being one of the most popular Godzilla movies referenced in outside media. Nearly any time a list of Godzilla movies is mentioned, Megalon is usually on that list. I think the big old beetle deserves that recognition. Mothra. Can't have a top 10 Godzilla monsters list without the queen of the monsters herself. In terms of popularity, it goes Godzilla, then Mothra. She's absolutely the second most recognizable Japanese monster, and it's featured just as much as Godzilla in marketing, merchandise, and outside references. Not to mention, Mothra is also the only other Toho kaiju to get her own film series. When it comes to the Godzilla films, though, Mothra makes this list because she offers a unique setting and tone to the franchise. While most of the monsters are products of scientific experimentation or prehistoric survivors, Mothra is an inherently mystical creature. A creature of fantasy, worshipped as a god by islanders in the South Pacific. This is also why she's the perfect foil for Godzilla himself. While he's a creature of science, she's a creature of the mythological world. It's also noteworthy to mention that she's one of the few female monsters in the series, and is the only one of the big 5 to be portrayed by a prop in practically all her film appearances. Sure, Haruo Nakajima was inside the original Mothra suit in the 1961 film, but every single adult Mothra was controlled by wirework. It's really a testament to Toho's special effects team that Mothra has gained so much popularity. You go, girl! Moth? Orga. Godzilla 2000 is my favorite Godzilla movie of all time, and it stands to reason that the film's big bad would make my favorite monsters list. Orga is an extremely unique kaiju whose origins are not only incredibly creative, they also offer us a look at what makes Godzilla tick. Orga is a byproduct of an alien race's attempts to clone themselves into Godzilla. To do this, they absorb a special antibody in Godzilla's bloodstream, Organizer G1.
It's regenerated G1.
Or that, as it's known in the US dub. This antibody is actually responsible for Godzilla's nigh indestructibility and super regenerative powers, hence the American dub's name. Orga's design is a wonderful concoction of Godzilla and an alien organism. It's the closest we have gotten so far to seeing Godzilla actually fight another of his species, which is something I've been pining for nearly all my life. Orga is a great one-off kaiju, and I'm happy to see him take center stage in the Atari video games, as well as make a cameo in the Planet of the Monsters anime film. Jet Jaguar. Yup, that's right. This goofball is number 5 on my list. A lot of you are probably wondering why, and, well, I don't know. Jet Jaguar just appeals to me in every way, from his goofy design to his character, and especially from his theme song. Okay, a little dose of Mystery Science Theater 3000 also helps. Jet appeals to me because of his similarities to Henshin heroes of the time, like Ultraman. Not gonna lie, I actually would have totally been on board with a Jet Jaguar television show. Zone Fighter who? Anyway, Jet Jaguar is an extremely emotive character in the franchise, and I love how much more love he's getting these days. This robot rocks. Mechagodzilla. The mechanical duplicate is an integral part of the Godzilla franchise and easily one of the most popular characters associated with it. While the idea of giant robotic duplicates wasn't started by Mechagodzilla, it was absolutely popularized by him. The beauty of Mechagodzilla and why he ranks so high comes down to two major points. For one, he's just an overwhelmingly cool-looking monster, no matter the incarnation. Second, he's an easily adjustable character, able to be used in any role the screenwriter and director wants him in. In his original appearance, he was a villainous alien weapon of mass destruction, whose creators were hellbent on overthrowing Godzilla's presence on Earth. In the Heisei series, he became a creation of mankind, a tool to use against Godzilla's constant rampages. And finally, he became a cyborg, and a symbol of humanity's disregard for the resting dead. Out of all the incarnations, I think Kiryu might be my favorite. He's a perfect cross between the Showa and Heisei designs, and his artificial intelligence lends to some great ethical drama and character moments in his two films. Mechagodzilla's next appearance is in the upcoming second film in the anime Godzilla trilogy. The teaser poster showcases a bold new look for the robot Godzilla, and one I'm intrigued to see in action. Whatever his role, Mechagodzilla is definitely not a character who'll be rusting away anytime soon. Goroh Soros. Oh yeah, this will be a shocker to most of you. You're probably thinking, Goroh Soros? Of all the kaiju, you pick Goroh Soros? Well, yeah. Goroh Soros is a perfect example of simple yet satisfying. His design is not anything out of the ordinary or super spectacular. He's just a big old dinosaur. But that's why I like him. Goroh Soros' design is just a theropod dinosaur, but in the tokusatsu style. It's hard to explain, but this stylization is why I love him. Outside of his design, Goroh Soros is a tenacious fighter with a pretty cool and practical ability. The kangaroo kick is a great signature move for the character. Goro's been showing up a lot more frequently these days, and he isn't so underrated anymore. And that makes me happy. I hope we see this retrosaur back on the screen again in the near future. Gigan. Gigan is a wild card. He's obviously one of the most bizarre and original monsters in the entire Godzilla series, and a sadistic bully that takes pleasure in bringing absolute havoc and destruction. And that's why we love him. Gigan, along with Megalon, is a monster with personality. His design evokes a chaotic design process, where everything but the kitchen sink was thrown into his creation. From the scythe hands to the buzzsaw chest and jewel eye, if Goroh Soros is a piece of tokusatsu art, then Gigan is an absolute masterpiece. In his debut film, he was shown to have quite the characterization, seemingly taking pleasure in brutalizing Godzilla and Angurius. In Godzilla vs. Megalon, he and his partner display a form of brutal kinship, laughing and taunting their monster and robot enemies. And in his most recent appearance in Godzilla Final Wars, he comes across as a brash and cocky monster, whose overconfidence in his gadgets and gizmos ultimately result in his downfall. Gigan's cool, and he knows it. King Ghidorah, the King of Terror, the arch-nemesis of Godzilla, the destroyer of worlds. King Ghidorah is the ultimate final boss monster and my absolute favorite Godzilla monster. Ghidorah is a figurehead in the world of Daikaiju films and one of the greatest, most fantastical creature designs of all time. A golden, three-headed dragon with an enormous wingspan, two tails, and no arms? Awesome. Like Mechagodzilla, Ghidorah has gone through a large amount of origin changes and roles in the Godzilla series. In the 1960s, he was the ultimate space monster that required the work of two or more monsters to defeat. In the 90s, he became the pawn of a time-traveling terrorist organization, and eventually transformed into a cyborg to aid Japan instead of destroy it. And in the new millennium, he was a mystical force of the sky, protecting the sacred grounds of Japan and driving off evil forces. Whatever his role, King Ghidorah remains a malleable and unique character that absolutely deserves his popularity and place among Toho's Big Five. With the impending release of Godzilla King of the Monsters in 2019, I'm eager to see how director Michael Dougherty will portray our favorite Golden Hydra. However he's portrayed, Ghidorah will forever remain my #1 favorite Godzilla monster. And that's it for this episode of Countdown. What are your top 10 favorite Godzilla monsters? Let me know in the comments below, and click that like button if you enjoyed the video and would like to see more. Thanks for watching.